11:11 on Friday, December 10th. And if you were wishing on 11:11 and hoping that we would come back, here we are. Gonna hail Sean right now, but yeah, we're back. I'd say we're back. Little bit of a recap more than anything, I'd say. We have a little bit of a plan. We're going to be able to kind of catch up on what we've been up to since July. It's been a while since we've uploaded anything. But hi. Well, there's a lot of you. Hello, everyone. Lighting should be all right. Let's see. It's sending to There we are.
My man.
Hello, Mr. Sean Beeman. I was talking earlier about how we started exactly at 11:11, so I think enough people wished and hoped and prayed and spun the stem off of their apples, hoping to hear from us, and we are here. We've returned. Did you guys? You did the ABC game, and I'd usually get to B. I don't know, something about the way I twisted an apple would always come off really easily. But I remember you'd have that one friend that somehow would get it up to Z and would start again, and you're like, how rubber tree apples and stuff. All right.
Happy belated to your son, Anna Vidal.
2 days before mine, and then a day before the Christmas decorations go up at most major theme parks. Mid-November, it's Christmas time. Well, hey Josh, we're doing all right. I think let's just dive into it. I'd say we can do a little recap. We're not going to be doing a movie today, but we are going to be talking about the last 13 episodes that we did. Spotify recap kind of like sent me for a spin because they sent all the stats on what we've done with the podcast.
Well, it really did a good job of reminding us that we have a podcast.
Yeah, there's something I was supposed to be doing during this time, and I just remembered. But it's really funny. To me, the neatest, some of the neatest stats that we received is that it said of our listeners, we are in the top podcast for 4 of you. So for those of you that are listening to us via Spotify, thank you. For those of you that are listening elsewhere, thank you as well. Spotify also told us that we released 1,067 minutes across 13 episodes, and wow. That's a neat number. I don't know, because you sit there and go, it's an hour here, an hour there, and then it's 1,000 minutes, and you're like, oh.
We knew I like to talk a lot, but who knew you talked that much, Marco?
I know, right? Who knew? Who thought? Me, reserved Marco. So yeah, well, kind of give you a recap of what we've been up to.
Yeah, I want to know what's been going on with the truck.
It's
the truck podcast, so tell me.
Yeah, so the truck is back to doing events. Not terribly consistently, but I would say like when it comes to like convention season, I know there's like the summer convention season, and I think like we kind of go towards the more holiday designer con. We did designer con in November, did the Hollywood Christmas parade like 2 weeks later, then we did LA Comic Con last week, and then we've already we're kind of lining up a couple more.
Well, what happened with designer con? Walk me through. Those all sound red.
Yeah, Designer Con's really neat. We haven't been back since their last show in 2019. That was probably one of the last events that we watched. The last event we did was the Disneyland event, but that was probably one of the last conventions we did before.
Is that how you got into the gig that had the bag?
No, the gig with the bag was through. I'll tell you more about that. The gig with the bag, that was just as usual, us getting hit up by the company, and but DesignerCon was a lot of fun because there were a lot of people we hadn't seen in a while. A mix of like car owners, folks who had booths. There were a couple booths and people who I did miss, just because they were either elsewhere or didn't feel safe, going, international or local travel right now. say hello to people at DCon. Hello, hello. And people who said hello at LA Comic Con. Yeah, so DCon was interesting. We didn't have stanchions around it. Kind of did a little tiny table to the side. We were kind of on the back side of a post, but we were also near restrooms and near like a seating area. So there was a lot of traffic flow in that area. I think like the highlight was seeing people again and just being able to like show off like the merch that we have. We got some new pins from Lean Customs. We have our updated Yo buttons where here's the part of the episode where it becomes show and tell. And for those of you that are listening, I will do my best to do descriptions. We have a new Yo button, so this is one of the first fundraiser things that we did.
But what does it feel like?
Yeah. So it's very soft. Going back to our ASMR so we did I think these are 2.5-inch buttons. No, this is a 3-inch. 3-inch? 3-inch?
3 inches?
How big?
That sounds big enough.
That sounds all right. That's a 2-inch button. And one of our first like fundraising items that we did was a Yo button. We did one that was distressed, we did one that was solid, and now we're doing one that is solid but has a black edge to it, which is kind of neat on a matte finish, so there's no shine to it. And I think what's really fun is if you take a photo of this in really bright sunlight and kind of creak up the saturation a bit, it almost looks like a cartoon just kind of fell
into
your
cool.
picture. Yeah. I've always liked the Yo button thing. It's like a kind of a double-edged sword in that if you know, you know. And if you don't, it's still a neat sentiment. People are going to yell "yo" at you, especially if you're on the East Coast. And then
yo,
Adrian. And
tried not to, but you couldn't help it. I know.
Well, if you go on Sylvester Stallone's website, he has a shirt that just says "yo," and it's like a picture of Rocky on it. I'm like, I need to buy that. My dad was from Philly. I like the Rocky movies. Like the Rocky, as Rocky as the Rocky films get after 4, they to me are like the comfort Ocean's 11 trilogy. You just put them on, you watch them, and you just. I think what's really funny with the Yo stuff though is that it's so specific that we have to worry about copyright, but it's also like specific enough that you know what it's from. Which
I was gonna say, I think Duke Kaboom could have been voiced by what's his name, Sylvester Stallone. That'd have been hilarious.
Oh no! I fell off my motorcycle. I can't do a Sylvester Stallone.
Yo, we're doing bad. It's been a while. Our
impressions are rusty. I think that impression was like a slow motion Robert De Niro, or it was the guy from Schoolhouse Rock who. And I've always liked that, where it's like, "Hey, Bill, what are you doing?" I'm just a Bill, and I'm stuck on a hill. We should just we should re-record songs as that.
We'll do our own sing-along. We'll do it with the. Can you get those, like, remember the sing-along tapes when we were kids?
Yeah, the bounce and little make. There was so.
Oh, here we go. We're off.
Yes, we are off.
Just a heads up, folks. I wrote a whole outline right here. Don't even worry about it, dude.
Out the window.
Don't even worry about it. We're going. Here we go. Off the rails. So,
archive.org has a really fun database of old videos, and someone has uploaded, apparently, I didn't realize, I mean, to me, Laserdisc was this thing that never caught on, but I realized that it produced enough that there's a fair amount, and I think what's neat is that there are people who have uploaded Laserdisc rips, which are better than DVD, and in some cases, and I guess they did the sing-along songs on Laserdisc, and so you can go and download like a lot of the Laserdisc rips of those, and unfortunately, I did not jump on it. I'm sad I did not. Someone did a rip of Pikachu's Vacation and Pokemon the first movie, and they have it on Blu-ray, but there's something about that like grit and wobble of an old DVD or VHS, and the Kids WB kind of slammed that little wobbly logo. And I regret not jumping on that, but I'm sure there's a way that I could find it. And I think a fun movie night. We need to do another video game night. I keep going back to that. That was a lot of fun when we did that.
That was almost a decade ago now, I feel like.
That is something that I think we can talk about in the recap, is that this upcoming April 26th, will be exactly 10 years since we went up to Pixar.
That's wild to think about.
It's been 84 years. Titanic was called the ship of dreams.
Don't throw the Peace Planet truck off the back of the boat, Marco. Don't throw the Peace Planet truck off the back of the boat. But I guess no one needs this anymore. Just price is artificial. Yeet.
The old rocket. The whole time to be this big chain.
It was never broken.
Big rocket on me.
Oh man. Okay, so you did Designer Con. You did
Hollywood Christmas Parade.
Yeah. How was that this year?
Great. That was another one of those, like, I'm seeing people I haven't seen in 2 years. Mm-hmm. I ran down to Amoeba Records, which moved to a new location by the Pantages, because I am one of those people that when I go and I'm like buying old soundtracks, and I'm going to keep talking as I go run and find the things that I did buy from Amoeba Records. So like my whole thought process when I go to Amoeba is I go and I just kind of feel out the room, and I see, like, I usually go to soundtracks. Soundtracks are my favorite because they're always out of print. They're always really cheap because people aren't looking for soundtracks and stuff. And so I found, here's my lighting. I got The Illusionist by Sylvain Chomet.
Oh, yeah.
I did Triplets of Belleville.
I've never watched that. Do I need to watch it? Because I've seen it. I've almost watched it 3 or 4 times.
Triplets of Belleville?
Yeah. No, The Illusionist.
I think it's really neat. It's one of those movies that, like, I don't forget about it, but then, like, I watch it again and I'm like, this is a very good movie. And I bought, there's always movies, you know, when you buy movies in pairs and you always kind of associate them with each other, even though they're not really that related. Mm-hmm. So I bought, back when there was a Blockbuster in our neighborhood, I used to always peruse the previously viewed DVDs, and I bought Triplets of Belleville and Tokyo Godfathers. And 2 very vastly different films, but I highly recommend both of them. And that's one of those things where I associate them because I was like, okay, good. I batted 2 for 2 with buying these movies that were very good that I still think about years later. Mm-hmm. This non-soundtrack piece is Mel Tormey's California Suite, which is, I could go in for a little bit, but it's like an album that is a big suite that is a tribute to California, and he recorded 2 versions. He recorded a version in the 40s, he recorded a version in the 50s. Found the 50s one. The 40s one is a little bit more choral.
That's called a deep cut.
It is a deep cut. And then I found a out of print promo only Bug's Life soundtrack, which has more.
Who's on the cover?
There are more. It's a little more expensive than I wanted to pay. At least like, it's more than $10 when it comes to cheap CDs. But it has more tracks. It has 25 tracks, and I'm curious as to which ones I haven't done.
They print it on a Laserdisc instead. How'd they get that in there? Just kidding. It'd be cooler, I think, if they had Heimlich as a caterpillar on the front cover, and then when you opened it up on the CD itself, he was the butterfly, but the same size.
I love a good, clever, like, that doesn't, I don't think that happens. I don't know, I haven't bought a CD.
It does. I mean, like, packaging isn't needed the same way. Certain things it goes that way. Anything that's popularized on the internet with like unboxing and stuff, they always have the coolest packaging still.
Good point. Yeah, I think the last album I bought was probably the Silk Sonic album.
I want to get that. I haven't bought an album in a while.
Yeah. And then last but not least, this one's really funny because I feel like this is worth mentioning because it feels like it's the right, it tickles this vibe for me. This is the out of print City Slickers soundtrack.
Wow.
And like, look at this artwork. Like, I've never seen this key art of like Billy Crystal being Billy Crystal, and like, you know, it's just great. It's really nice, and it's got that. That's like
cool.
That is a nice looking retro CD.
CDs just have the coolest prints on them.
Yeah. Okay, so.
So you did that, then you went to, where else did you go? One more.
I did LA Comic Con this past weekend.
That's fucking rad. Excuse my language. That's flipping rad.
We'll add a horn honk. But that was a lot of fun. We were parked once again with other vehicles we haven't seen in a while. Ectomobile, a screen used NASCAR Herbie.
Any
Fiat
newcomers?
500. At least like folks that I haven't met before. We had a new Knight Rider friend, and then we had a Camaro Lightning McQueen.
Oh, that's cool.
Been around, and like I saw them at the parade, and just there's so many, it's like 40, 50 cars, and it's just like we're running around, ping ponging around.
The
Um,
Camaro Lightning McQueen is really popular, and I think they look really cool.
yeah, I think what's
And
really neat.
I feel like they would look cooler if they were like a Chrysler 300 Hemi C with all Camaro everything on it. Because the cars, like Lightning McQueen is a much more bulky looking fast.
I think what's really interesting with Lightning McQueen, when you recreate Lightning McQueen, is kind of like with the way that we handle the Pizza Planet truck is for the most part like it is effectively based on a Toyota. But if you get any boxy pickup truck, it's the same. Like they
Hmm.
look similar. And I know a lot of people, like I know a couple of people who made them out of Mazdas, and they're like, it's not a Mazda. I'm like, well, it's a car that doesn't exist, and it's an amalgam of multiple cars. And so I think Lightning McQueen takes that a step further because I think they say like Lightning McQueen is based on like a Corvette and a Miata. And I'm like, there's no car that's in between that. But if you did just one or the other, it would look too much like X, Y, and Z. And so I
Hmm.
think that allows it to be more open to interpretation. And so you'll see Camaro ones, you'll see, I think you'll see Corvettes where people will put like a mouthpiece and, this perpetual Owen Wilson, like, hi, on the front of it.
I almost feel
And
like the Mustang looks. Oh, this one looks good. A Ford GT. Ford
mhm,
GT kind of looks more like it.
mhm,
The Mazda. I see. I'm looking at the Mazda one now.
mhm,
I don't
mhm.
know. Maybe the
It's just,
Lotus. The Lotus is pretty similar.
mhm.
I don't know. The
And
Lightning McQueen. That's a hard car to recreate. You
yeah,
kind
and
of
it's
got to just go with your own thing and
mhm.
do a lot of fabricating.
That Ford GT, I'm looking at it now too. That's pretty cool, but I just feel like, man, I hope that's a Ford GT replica kit car or something. Cause
Yeah, right. I
uh,
think that's the best way to go about it as a kit car.
yeah.
All
Um,
right.
and then if you go to Loungefly, you can see that we did a little bit of cruising
The
around with them.
bag.
We were delivering some Pizza Planet truck bags to various influencers throughout the area. Stay tuned to this channel. There's more where that came from. That is all I can say. And that was a lot of fun. Before the parade, we had a little bit of a repair scare, a little
Hmm.
bit of rhyme scheme there. When I took the truck out for the first, it was funny. The truck hadn't driven farther than maybe the local gas station or like down the beach, so like maybe 20 miles, like round trip kind of thing, like to Anaheim and back. And then I took it up to the Grove and back, and it started making some troubling scraping sounds. And
Uh-oh.
when I hit up Felix and Chris, our mechanics, I usually send like an audio clip, or I'll send like something, anything like, "Hey, this is what it sounds like." And usually I'm a car hypochondriac. I'm like, the car is making noises, and it's like, yes, that's what cars do.
It's on,
Uh,
Marco.
it's on, it's not an electric vehicle. But then Felix was like, that does sound interesting. And so I'm like, what does that mean, Felix? Oh no. So we took it in, and the way it was reacting, I don't have the full like explanation, but from my understanding, from the way it was reacting, it sounded like it may have had an exhaust leak. And
Got it.
that was, and depending on where that fell, that could have caused, it ranged from like we can order the part and wait for it, or to like we cannot drive anymore safely. So thankfully, it ended up not being that, which is good. But we're still in the process of raising money with the intention to replace the engine so we can go on longer trips more consistently. And I would say like any merchandise sales, all that kind of stuff we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do. Blue sky. There's part of me where I still joke about the cross country trip, but there's a game plan. There's a game plan. I'll go over with you later, but that's something that I think would be a lot of fun to do.
I'm with it.
Yeah. So let me consult the list now. Two highs and a low of what we've done is just being back in the parade was a lot of fun. The crowd wasn't as big as it usually was.
Yeah,
And
but
that's to be expected.
it's kind of more for people at home now. Right now, the parade.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to broadcast in 7 days
Hmm.
on KTLA or CW Network, and I think Hallmark Channel later in the year.
I still say
A little.
WB, but you know what? Deal with
Mm-hmm.
it. Sorry, CW.
Freeform, the new name for ABC.
And it's UPN,
Oh,
right?
Upin. You
It's
remember when they called it
UPN
Upin?
13. It's not
Mm-hmm.
my channel, whatever, dude.
KCAL 9.
WWF. What else am I not giving up?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of wrestling, very briefly, we have to drop a Macho Man reference in here. So, Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Is Macho Man in Spider-Man? That'd be so great if they somehow cameo him
They
in
need
there.
to bring Bonesaw back, even if
They
it's
do.
like.
He's probably the greatest villain that Spider-Man's ever faced.
I just think that'd be great, where it's like, oh
He
no, it's the
almost took
Sinister
Spider-Man
Six.
down in 3 minutes.
Yeah, he took him down quick. He didn't need a movie. I just love the thought of like the Sinister Six are there, and then like on top of like a tower, Bonesaw is ready, and then like Tobey Maguire's like, okay guys, like I'm out. I gotta go. Bonesaw's here.
You're just doing
the next Bonesaw. Just run, guys, run. There's nothing you can do. Got you here for 3 minutes.
He's gonna do like the whole "I got you for 3 minutes."
It's like cinematic, and you just have like a minor key version of Pomp and Circumstance playing in the background. Dun, 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 dun.
Spider-Man, you have to take this more seriously.
You don't understand. They're coming back, and they're coming for you, specifically Bonesaw. Speaking of trailers that are a little bit more relevant to our topic, Lightyear trailer dropped. What is your take on the realistic, futuristic, and pretty freaking awesome looking?
It's a total different direction for Pixar.
Yeah.
Total different direction. So this sparks conversation that I don't know if we were ready to have, but I'm excited. I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm on eggshells. I don't know. I hope that it continues with the great stories that Pixar has done a great job of doing, because they're such great storytellers. But this looks more like an animated action movie. And because of that, I worry. That's all. I worry.
Yeah.
And I worry for the reason of Disney Digital 3D, Disney's 3D animation department. They're coming. When it comes for Pixar and their monopoly on Disney 3D animation and their monopoly on being the best animated storytellers, Disney Digital 3D's cut. Like they've got some heavy hitters now at this point, and it bums me out because the creative wonderland that is Pixar is in jeopardy. It's been that way for years, and so when I see this movie and I look at the climate as is, I look at it as an opportunity for Pixar to go into a different realm that hasn't really been explored much yet by other animation houses, as well as I'm worried that I hope they make this step seamlessly. I don't know what their plans are for the future.
I'm excited to see what they do with that.
I think sick. Like the child in me is pumped.
Yeah, like there's probably a bunch of kids and adults that are stoked, and I am excited for that action, because I think Incredibles was the first time that they really did an action film, kind of more adult themed, James Bond superhero kind of thing, and then
Cars
Incredibles 2, Cars 2. So they know how to, and it's a different crew, new people, cross-pollination. I love what is happening in the animation, feature animation, everything. Animation as a genre, animation as a medium. I'm excited for that new Spider-Verse teaser that came out. We also got to mention Turning Red, the other Pixar film.
That looks like a flex in what I was alluding to, which is storytelling, in the sense that they've done an enormous job of keeping that story completely under wraps and giving you the most outlandish points to try to pick from. Exactly. It's like
little breadcrumbs
that instead of being breadcrumbs, they're like, here's a cherry pie, Here's some Sour Patch Kids. Here's a steak. And I'm not going to tell you what we're having for dinner, but it's got these
Open
things
your
in it.
boxes. We have
You know what I
fish
mean?
heads.
And you got beef Wellington with a delicious, apple pie and ice cream a la mode on top. It's like,
And you have to make it all
I
work.
can't wait for that one. That one I'm more sure of, but it's because it's more in the realm of what Pixar does.
I'm
I'm ready
really
for a
excited.
Finding Nemo-esque story where I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel better now.
I think what's funny with it too is that it's just like it is peak 90s nostalgia, which will be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's funny too now is it's like time is marching on, to quote They Might Be Giants, and it makes me realize that I'm like, oh, the 90s were a while ago. We're gonna start seeing movies based on our childhoods.
I made a reference to the 80s being 30 years ago, and someone told me, Sean, no, that was almost 50 years ago now, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang.
Yeah,
I'm old.
I know it scares me when I'm like, oh yeah, 2001, that was 19 over 20 years ago.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
we were born in the late 1900s, man.
Yeah. What's it like? When technology was changing. Yeah.
Quick, ask me how old he is. Feel better. All right,
when the old lamplighter man would come out and tell us, time to go home, kids. I have to turn on the lamps. Go home to your houses with your unlocked front doors. Go drink some refreshing water from the hose. It just hit differently.
Hose water does hit differently. Anyways, so we stopped about halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it on purpose. If you were paying attention, we totally did it on purpose. It wasn't because life hits hard and sometimes you just got to take a break. And that's not what happened. But we stopped 13 movies in. There's 24 movies to date. We got 25th on the way and turning red like we just talked about. Of the movies we've seen, I'm just going to say them one more time. Actually, you know what? Instead of saying them as such, oh yeah, I'll do it this way. Okay, cool. I'm just going to read them off one time. We watched Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, Cars 2, and Brave. I forgot we watched Toy Story 3 too.
Yeah, I think what's really neat is looking at that list, the first half of Pixar's feature film filmography. I think it's interesting because it's like that was like truck kind of coming into like from our project and life standpoint. It's like Brave.
The truck started right there at Toy Story 3.
Yeah, Toy Story 3, and then by the time Brave came out, or right before, but like we were there like post Cars 2.
Yeah, we were there in 2011.
Yeah. So moving forward, all of the stories are going to be interesting because it's going to be knowing what we know, doing what we do, and like maybe paying a little bit more attention to where the truck was in the films. And I think what's always been funny with that is I still have trouble finding it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm a child. Every time I turn on a Pixar movie, I'm waiting for it, dude. And I explode. Don't watch Pixar movies with Sean because I talk.
I think Luca might have changed I need to make this chart. This is a brief thing where it's like I think the Pizza Planet truck usually would appear about halfway through the film, halfway to a third of the way into the film, and then slowly but surely it started shifting towards the first quarter, and then I think that changed with Luca.
It's an hour and 16 minutes into it. It's an hour and 16 minutes into the movie in Luca.
Yeah, it's like
it's almost done.
The entire. Yeah. Like, and I'm like, that's interesting, and I'm glad, that happened.
So of the movies that came out so far, I'm just gonna go through my favorites. I guess I'd say I think Toy Story 2 was probably the crowd favorite at this point when we get to this point in 2012. And I'm not gonna say it's my favorite, but I'll say that it's probably my number 2 because no matter what, it's in my top 2. It did it's the Empire Strikes Back of animation. I feel like where it's like this is a masterpiece. They took what they had before and they did even better. and it's not very often you see that. You got Aliens. I think we talked about it when we did that podcast. You have the movie Aliens, the second in the Alien franchise. You have Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and you got Toy Story 2. And in no specific order, those are the best sequels of all time, in my opinion. I can't think of much better ones. The comedy levels in that movie are freaking hilarious. Like they were already funny in Toy Story and A Bug's Life, but I think they really hit their stride and understood that we're in a time in children's animation where they've really understood what kind of adult content they can put into it.
Yeah.
Whether it's through their own action or also through, at this time we have a lot of parody between DreamWorks and Pixar. You got the whole Ants franchise, you've got Shrek coming out at this point. So there's a lot going on there to where everybody's trying to be as relevant as possible.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'd probably put my other number one would probably either be, I think Up. I think Up takes it just because when you're talking about a heartfelt story, the first 30 minutes of that movie are the best. They're top 30 minutes of any movie I've ever. It's Forrest Gump worthy recognition. It's great. So I put them in that same category. But then on the same thing, when Eve gets, turned off because she's got the sample inside of her belly, WALL-E turns into one of the best movies I've ever seen too, especially the Pixar films. And it really just brings me back to the whole Pixar knows how to tell a story. Finding Nemo made me love my father that much more. So I'd say those are probably my top four. I don't know if I have a top five.
I have trouble making top five lists. As much as I liked High Fidelity growing up, I have trouble making top five lists. I think what's so funny is I would agree with you with Toy Story 2. I just think what's so funny is of these 13, it's I like Toy Story 3 as a film, but I cannot rewatch it as often as I watch the other ones, just because of that last.
I was gonna say that movie hurt me more than any Pixar movie, including Up.
Yeah.
Because Up, I was really worried for him to lose something, Carl to lose something, but they took something from me in Toy Story 3.
And I took that personally.
Yeah. Michael Jordan, baby. Yeah, no, for real.
And that one, I think that's what's interesting is I think with this latter half, just to kind of sprinkle probably what I will talk about later, there are a lot of films coming up that I would say I don't watch as often because they hit so hard.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we can explore a little bit later. But of these, it's I watch The Incredibles a lot. I watch Ratatouille a lot. And then to me, of this group of movies, Bug's Life and Cars are two movies that I forget about, question mark, or they're not my first choice, but when they're put on, I'm yeah, they're good. They're fun.
Bug's Life, you know what? Bug's Life number 5 for me. Because it's such, for these so far, the first one, nobody ever talks about A Bug's Life. It is completely forgotten about, you know?
But then you quote it to someone and they know it, and there's all these, it's funny, it's permeated through culture, it's permeated through our generation. I'm not make it sound real Ready Player One-ish, but it's people know about it, and I don't know if they just forget. You put it on, no one's going to say, turn this off, I don't like it. They're oh yeah, I forgot about this movie. And then everyone, it's an interesting one.
What was the other one you said? Bug's Life, and what was the other one?
Cars. Sometimes. Cars isn't my first choice, but if I'm sitting there and I'm I want to put on a movie, I just want to play in the background while I'm working, I'll put on Cars. Monsters Inc. is another one that's great.
Monsters Inc. is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That should be my 5. Monsters Inc. Okay, so I would say that Toy Story 1 is that franchise was revolutionary in that between the tin soldier, right? Tin toy? The tin toy.
Oh, tin toy.
The tin toy being this incredible dream, right? With so much gravitas, and it turns into Toy Story. And that's wonderful. And it's great to see that dream come to life. And A Bug's Life is them kind of flexing, kind of just growing pains, I feel like, they're kind of trying to figure it all out. Can they take the same concept of children's story and apply it to different worlds? Can they make a new story that's not the same? Can they, or does it have to be Toy Story, right? And when they get to Monsters Inc., we talked about a lot in it. They created a whole world. Like they really did a great job of creating this whole world with its own rules, its own problems, with its own everything. And you know, like A Bug's Life kind of did that on a much smaller scale, on the size of an ant colony. But Monsters Inc. took that to like a global scale. Like they really took it and said, there's so many little one-off jokes that are just based on what would it be like if there was a monster world, and it just hits you with them over and over. It's like a Rodney Dangerfield movie. It's great. So I and then the music in it, you know, to that point, music has been really big, and you got the Newman thing going on, but the music in Monsters Inc. was, I feel like, the first real flex for them, in the sense that outside of the Buzz Lightyear scene, they really connect. It was the first time Pixar really connected music to their film throughout, where like every piece of the movie is influenced by how much energy the music has with it.
Yeah, it's just Monsters Inc. Just, I think what's funny is the world that they built, that whole world building thing, is so fun, but it seems so like natural, where you're like, yeah, that's how it's always been. And you're like, no, that concept of like a monster in the closet and they have a city that has to run off the power. I'm like, that's so deep and brilliant and fun.
Yes.
And like, yeah, every time that I gotta watch the making of. I gotta take some more flights and watch these movies with director's commentaries.
That's a good one.
Um,
But they took that whole world building thing, and they did not stop. They applied that to everything moving forward. You know, just like the character growth that we get, like not character growth, the character investment that we get out of Toy Story. They take that and they continue. They grow. They don't leave anything useful behind. It doesn't feel like. It's really cool. So
I think what's interesting is, if I were to look at like the timeline of this compared to my life, where it's like I love Toy Story, remember loving Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo times, that was like me being like 12 to 14, and that was
I don't
that
watch
dark
kids movies.
Exactly. And I think that was the brief moment in which I wasn't like the biggest fan of like Disneyland, but I went to California Adventure. We were annual pass holders before it became really crowded and crazy. And I remember like I went to DCA more. That's why California Adventure has this like funny little, nostalgic tickle. And Incredibles is what brought me back to loving animation. From like, like I watched Monsters Inc. I watched Finding Nemo in theaters and stuff, but Incredibles was the one that made me go, whoa, wait a second, hold on, like what's going on here? And loving that kind of stuff.
I think that's a good little what would I call that?
Segue?
Light in the no, I'm gonna say light in the mind that this Buzz Lightyear movie is gonna be sweet.
Yeah,
because you alluded to the fact that they've done action before with The Incredibles, and you're right. And then also we spent a good 15 minutes, I want to say, talking about the opening scene to Toy Story 2 and how phenomenal that was, which is essentially what we're getting in a movie. We even talked about how cool it'd be if there was a movie, and then like 3 months later they dropped, hey, we're doing it. So
they said it. Those guys said it. Launch it now. Launch it. Go. Finger in the air.
I said it. It was Sean and Marco in the morning. I repeat, Sean and Marco in the morning. Stop. Quick. Yeah.
We know for a fact these films are worked on for 4 years, and we did not inspire it in any way. We are not those kind of podcasters. We're not even those kind of people. Quick. I'm in. I know Kung Fu. So about halfway through this list, we have a movie that you hadn't seen until, that sounds really accusatory because I'm pointing my finger. If you hadn't seen one of these films until we started doing this rewatch, and that film is 2007's Ratatouille.
I thought you were going to say 2001 League Beneath the Sea.
So like going in fresh, knowing probably only the memes or random references to, Ratatouille, Ratatouille, Baba,
Ratatouille. Ratatouille.
rat,
Ratatouille.
Ratatata,
Ratatouille. I got you, Paper Plane Studio. Ratatouille.
good soup.
Ratoy's my cousin. That's actually my cousin. She lives in South Central. Ratoy, you here? No? Okay. She ain't here.
I feel like Saturday Night Live needs to do. I mean, based on there's a TikTok out there, but I think having Adam Driver in Ratatouille would be very funny.
Adam Driver in Ratatouille?
Yeah, as the chef, and then like you'd have Pete Davidson as Remy. I'm just pulling his hair.
Sometimes you have really good ideas, Marco. You have really good ideas.
Well, no, there's a TikTok where someone has. I can't repeat it here.
Hold on, wait. I want to one up this. All right, we're gonna
Okay.
one step further. So, you edit it to where it's been happening the entire time he's been in Star Wars, and that's why you're throwing all those temper tantrums and everything.
Just a rat in his head.
He can go like, "No, you're not gonna fucking, listening. Check this out."
Dun, 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 dun. It's a Patton Oswalt.
Okay. So
No. I said
how
this
do I
way.
feel about Ratatouille? Great question.
Yes.
It was pretty sweet. I like it a lot. No, honestly, okay. You know this. Listeners might not. I've been in foods and hospitality, and beverage and hospitality for, I don't know, better part of 2 decades. And so this movie, one of the reasons why I didn't watch it probably is because I was working a job in foods, and I was like, I don't want to watch a movie about foods. I already do that. That said, I'm very passionate about food, and I was very excited to watch it now. And after watching it, I think once again they do a great job of telling a story, which is enhanced by the fact that there are certain times where dialogue can't be used because they're utilizing 2 different species who don't speak the same language, and so much of it has to be elocuted through body language and through the facial expressions and etc. And just the overall timbre of the scene, whether it's colors or whether it's the way other things move in it. There's so much story that's being told by things outside of words, which is really cool with that. It was also really cool to see them tackle an actual place on the planet. That was pretty rad. Seeing like just the way they, to that point, we hadn't done too many people outside of, I want to say, The Incredibles. And it's really fun to see how Pixar, caricatures humanity. There's so many different versions of people in this, different shapes, sizes, colors, etc. And it's really fun to watch that on scene there. But for real, I touched on it earlier, Pixar does a great job of utilizing sound. And so in this one, more than most others, Monsters, Inc. being the first time they'd done it, they almost went to Fantasia-like lengths to give us a marriage between music and movie. And it went along so great with, if you've ever eaten something that was so good that you just close your eyes and you start to do a little dance, you know what I'm saying? That's the music they were playing. That music you dance to when you have something so good and you just start moving. And they did a great job of finding that. That's not easy to do. And so I give Ratatouille a lot of props. And it not being in my top 5 for this first half isn't a knock on it at all. It's more of praise I can give to Pixar for doing such a good job. I don't have a least favorite movie on here. They're all really, even Cars 2. We wanted to talk trash on Cars 2 so bad.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
We came into that movie going like, all right, man,
we were like,
we can't trash it too bad.
Dreading
we liked
it.
it. It was a good movie. We're like, what? So
it's fun.
Back to Ratatouille, I just think that it did a phenomenal job of giving me just new palettes to taste things on, whether it was musical palettes, seeing things that affected my taste buds, whether it was visual palette. They just did a great job of just making my brain fire in so many different places.
That sequence with Remy describing taste and the little like musical and visual thing we were talking about, it's such an underrated little portion. It's so neat, and I'm just like, whoa, that like they just pulled like the background drops, and you're like, whoa, like it feels almost like a stage show effect.
Mm-hmm.
The house lights dim, and then like they roll in like things in the background that do these effects, and then they lights come back up again, and it's
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things that's really fascinating about film because it can do all of these things that other mediums can, and but just art, creativity in general is just like being able to like express things in these really fascinating ways.
I watched a really cool thing on that about how like the director, like that movie almost changed directions like 2 or 3 times just based
Mm-hmm.
on the way they shot things, and
Mm-hmm.
just in deciding that, okay, well, you know what, no, we want the marriage between this to be seen more, or we don't want to show, because they really wanted to show the realism of a kitchen, and so it was difficult to kind of marry that between the story and also show that. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you ever have the chance, listeners, I definitely recommend watching the director's cut of that movie. It is, or the behind the scenes, whatever you can. It's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, really, really much so. Especially on something so mundane as just cooking. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's they did a great job. Phenomenal. I'm hungry.
I know. I'm like, I'm like, where should we eat? I want to eat.
Okay, I got one for you.
Go for it.
So everyone's wondering, about the power scale and where we ended up on this, midway tier, midway through. Who's the top? Who's the bottom? What's going on? And
Mm-hmm.
so the power scaling recap, which is also basically just, it started off as the Pixar theory for us. We kind of started off talking about how the Pixar theory affects things, but then it just kind of, as things go, went off the rails, and we started talking about who would be the strongest or most powerful character in Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
At first glance, everyone's first thought and opinion is normally Mr. Incredible. He's pretty much up there on most everyone's.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, we're only doing the characters we've seen thus far.
Mm-hmm.
So it
And
can't
we'll
be
be
anybody
updating
else.
it as we see them.
Yes. So your first thoughts on Mr. Incredible. After that, probably Jack. You can normally flip those two, vice versa. The difference being is sentience of Mr. Incredible. He's going to be a little more just, I mean, honestly, probably not. I could argue that back just because Jack was able to outsmart the raccoon and Mr. Incredible couldn't. So I don't know.
He's got
That's a real
the
toss up for me.
brains.
I can go either way on those. So
Mm-hmm.
here's my list as follows.
Yeah.
I'll start at number 10. I don't know. Come with the 10th person. Sorry, deal with it, people. Number 9, Buzz Lightyear. And I'm going to go with kind of like the more realistic version of him. The cartoon has come out to this point, so we'll say that there is a realistic version of him. And I'm kind of going by the character that we see in like the beginning of Toy Story 2, the one that gets zapped and turned into a pile of dust from the waist up.
Yeah.
That guy. He's still pretty powerful. He went against a lot of robots.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, somebody else who has very similar powers to Buzz, but doesn't need to breathe in space. And that's going to be Eva. She can shoot things. She can keep things safe inside of a little incubator belly. And she's incredibly durable. She can last in space, like we said, doesn't have to worry about the ailments of hot, cold like other people, doesn't have to eat anything. Number 7. Now, mind you, I do think Eva would make quick work of Buzz Lightyear. If we were to put them into a battle, I think that her ability her ability of flight compared to his ability of flight are very different, and I think she would just mop the floor with movement on him. Next up, I'd say is Syndrome. I put Syndrome above Eva for the simple reason of Eva is a robot that Syndrome I feel like could hack or something. He's just got the technology.
Build another robot that could.
Exactly. He basically built stuff that was cooler than her as it was in the 50s and stuff. So I'm just saying, I think that he could probably knock her out. Number 6, I'm going to put Remy. As all Remy needs to do is get a handful of hair, and he is in control of whoever he's touching. That's all he needs. Now, we haven't discussed, could it be arm hair too? Does it have to be head hair? I'm just saying,
know.
like, how do his powers work? Is it just through the touching of hair?
I'm not sure. I think I do. I remember them saying like somewhere in the making of where they I think they addressed it by saying that like because Linguini is such like a weak-willed person, that's one of the reasons why he's able to kind of like pull him around by his hair.
Well,
But
Syndrome definitely doesn't have a strong will. He gets scared of his own robot in 10 minutes.
And he has a lot of hair, so Remy's like, yes, perfect. A weak-willed man with long locks.
Above Remy, I got Jack Jack. Less hair to grab onto. Also, Jack Jack took out the raccoon, no problemo. I think that the mouse is going to be even easier. Above Jack Jack, Wally.
This is where we start getting some wild cards in here.
Well, yeah,
we got some.
The top five. Okay, 5 through 3 are pretty interchangeable, and the top two are pretty hard. So we got above Jack Jack. I've got Wally. I've got Wally for durability. Wally has lasted centuries and centuries and centuries without anybody checking on him. His only friend is a cricket. He hasn't lost his mind. He's doing just fine. He's got a laser beam that can cut through just about anything, like literally anything. He's basically Rob from Super Smash Brothers. And then he can compact things in his belly. So like if you can't get out of him, he will turn you into a cube real quick. He will turn you into tomorrow's skyscraper, big and large. And then he also was able to withstand the vacuum of space. So if we get the space flight, he's fine there.
Explosions.
Yeah.
Crushed
really
by
smart.
giant pieces of cruise ships.
He can come back. He's got minimal parts necessary to operate. I just feel like he's incredibly durable. You could throw him up against the wall 100 times and he probably just keeps rolling back. After that, the only person to throw Wally into a wall and probably not have him roll back, Mr. Incredible. Mr. Incredible. Now, some people might argue that Elastigirl should be in this place, and I would say that she is probably more useful than Mr. Incredible. But I think if we're talking about a fight, and a fight being to the death, I think that Mr. Incredible would just kind of pull until she can't stretch anymore, and that would be the end of that. And then I don't see a way out for Wally, as Mr. Incredible can't take out living objects nearly as well, but robots he has proven to be very, very good at destroying. So if that's why, if it was Jack against Mr. Incredible, I think Mr. Incredible wins. But then I don't know. All right.
Jack Jack's got those multiple powers that he doesn't
That's
have
what makes him hard. He's a wild card.
Yeah.
Above, how do you feel so far about this list? Where are you at?
I like it. I like where it stands. I think what's interesting though is that they're not locked in depending on certain circumstances, environmental, or just it could go either way. Once we get to these top two is when we start getting into some.
I'm gonna pump the brake a little bit. And I'm gonna bring up some honoraries. So we got Merida, right? She should be near this list. I don't know if she's quite there. She doesn't have any actual magic powers, but she does have dealings with somebody else on this list and is allowed to talk about it. So I feel like she's possibly should be the breadth of this whole thing. I think that Flick should also be mentioned. I don't think that he's actually powerful enough, but he has the ability to think outside of the box and take down foes much larger than himself, as well as has a whole colony of ants behind him. I think Carl should be on the list straight for willpower. The dude doesn't give up, and he will find a way. He made his house fly across the world. And then Sully should be really. I have a hard time keeping him off the list. He just doesn't have any actual power. He's really strong.
Yeah, he's just
That's kind of as far as it goes. Who's the secret agent car in Cars 2?
Finn McMissile.
Finn McMissile. That's the only other person I think that probably deserves to be on this list. He could probably be 10 because he's got the most power, I'd say. All right. Any other mentionables, honorable mentions?
I can't think of any. I think the craziest discussion is with these top two, because these top two are they're just out of left field in the best way. I love it.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think that's a good place to give me 10 seconds. I have to use the restroom real quick, and I'll be right back.
Cool. And now we bring you a sponsored message from our show sponsor. Both Sean and I are wearing shirts from Chosen One Apparel. Ours is based on a true story tee. They are incredibly comfortable, fitted but not tight, and they make me feel, really, really fashionable and stuff. Right now, they currently carry a line of various pop culture related and inspired apparel. on their site, thechosen1.com, spelled WAN. And they have a lot of fun stuff there. Got Spider-Man related, if you like Spider-Man, Back to the Future, or just general nerd pop culture. Also, too, if you are tuning in and would like to ask a question, I believe there's a secondary button outside of the chapter that will kind of consolidate all the questions into one area. That we will check later. I'm jumping back to a question that was asked from a viewer. Is there a Mazda B series Pizza Planet truck? I believe there is. I think there's at least 2 that are based on Mazdas. I have lost track of how many there are because they're popping up all the time. There's one, I knew about this one about a year and a half ago, but people have been tagging us in them. There's a Pizza Planet truck off in, I believe in Saudi Arabia. There's one out there. They got a really neat interpretation of the rocket. And I think it's neat to see just like people from everywhere trying to do their own thing. So that was our brief little commercial break. But we're back. So for the 2...
Our top 2. Once again, the recap in 10. Oh, hold on. In station 10, we got nobody. Could be Finn McMissile. Could be Sully. I kind of left that open for our honorable mention. Number 9, I got Buzz Lightyear, the realest version we could think of. Number 8, Eva. Number 7, Syndrome. 6, Remy. 5, Jack. 4, Wally. 3, Mr. Incredible. Incredible. Number 2.
Incroyable.
Now, it was really hard to put this person at number 2. And the reason is because in my heart, they're number 1. But if this person was protecting my heart would be exploded because the person number 1 would probably kill me. So anyways, number 2 is going to be none other than Mr. Gator Dunn, Mr. Mater, Toe Mater. Now, the reason you got Mater in this spot, if you haven't been listening so far, this is your first one, I'll give you the recap. Mater's incredibly overpowered. You know, he starts off as this real innocent guy. He's got buck teeth. He has a hard time with prepositions. And then you kind of notice that he can drive as fast as the race car can. He can do the same thing the race car backwards.
Mm-hmm. He's older than the race car. He's
a lot old. We don't know how old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We have no idea how old. He can jump over the moon.
Mm-hmm.
He's not scared of other cars 5 to 10 times the size, as we learned from the car tipping thing, tractor tipping.
And this is all in the first film.
He knows how to drift already when the most popular race car on the planet can't even do it.
Mm-hmm.
God, he can grapple things a distance away, first try, every time.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty nasty.
Deadly accuracy.
And he's a truck that can talk. And so that's just from the first one. And in Cars 2, he gets an upgrade where he now has the ability to change his skin, his abilities to whatever he wants. It's like an Inspector Gadget upgrade where he can fly now. He's got vampire capabilities at one point. He's got a bomb on his back at one point.
He's got weapons.
He's got weapons.
Secret agent training. He has access
at one
to
point,
whatever.
He's Spider-Man grappling across the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing it on accident.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till he tries. Yeah.
Don't try me. Don't try me.
So, speaking of, you know what? Wouldn't it have been kind of funny if Keanu Reeves voiced Mater for like a little short or something like that? And he's just really bad.
It's a pencil. Mater Wick took out the Russian car mob.
Mater Wick would be a great short. They've already done all the other shorts. That's the short that's missing.
Yeah.
All right, so that's number 2. He was number 1 for a while on our list. He made it all the way to number 1 until our last movie we watched, really. Mm-hmm. And it's a real bummer, too, because he held strong for 12 weeks in the number 1 spot.
Mm-hmm.
I guess not for 12 weeks. Let's see, for 1, 2, 3, 4, for 4 weeks, number one spot.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say before that it was probably Buzz, and then Sully. Yeah. Okay. So, and then number one, we go with the Woodcarver.
Mm-hmm.
And the Woodcarver, if you're unfamiliar, is going to be from Brave, and is also the catalyst in our Pixar theory. The Pixar theory being a theory that the animators connected all the Pixar films through a string of Easter eggs, and they actually take place in a chronological order of sorts. The Woodcarver being the first person to introduce magic into our universe.
Mm-hmm.
She creates the toys that can talk. She's able to create cars that are now able to be sentient as well. She is the reason why the bugs are so like she's just the reason why all these things have human characteristics. There's a story about the bug's life possibly happening after humanity has fallen, in between cars coming to life. So much stuff that goes into this whole Pixar theory. It has since been semi-debunked. It doesn't really make all the way sense that you'd like it to.
Mm-hmm.
It does make a great deal of sense if you want to, and you can overlook a few things, but it's a pretty sweet idea. Just the idea that it's following the rise and collapse of humanity and the following empires that followed.
Mm-hmm.
So she's my number one. She's got OP abilities. She's basically omniscient, omnipotent. She can see all things, be in all places. She has the ability to create whatever she wants. She can give life to anything that she pleases. She can also take that away. She doesn't seem to be good or evil. She seems to be somewhere in between, kind of a Cheshire cat, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that said, she could just make Mater into a truck.
A normal truck.
Yeah. And then get in them and drive away and run over Mr. Incredible and take away his powers on the way. And then on the way to that, just turn Wally into a cube that he was making or something. Like she just has unlimited abilities. So she wins. It's a bummer. I know, dude. Mater should definitely win. I feel like there's a way. Like it's 99 out of 100 she beats Mater, right? But we write the movie where Mater beats her.
I feel like if it came down to the Woodcarver having to fight Mater, it would kind of turn into a Godzilla versus Kong situation where a bigger bad would come out of nowhere. And like it would be like a warlock car would come out of nowhere. Like,
who's the villain in Toy
we
Story
gotta
3?
team up and take down this warlock car.
Who's the villain in Toy Story 3? What's his name?
Lotso.
Lotso
Huggenbear.
Lotso Huggenbear comes back because he's been the closest to really killing any of our characters, right? So we get Lotso Huggenkiss or whatever, plus somebody else to be like
teaming up,
incredible bads, you know. I'm looking for more bads now.
Oh yes,
Randall from Monsters Inc. As well as
I'm looking at the comment thread. We've got Giant Red Panda. Yeah, based on the Turning Red trailer, we're gonna have a new contender. I think somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean it could be.
Yeah, I think that'll be an interesting addition.
Luca and what's Luca's best friend? What's his name? I think they kind of
Alberto.
I think they add a whole new mix to this whole thing because them being able to fight both land and sea. There's one person I didn't put on there, and that's gonna be Bruce. Bruce should be considered as well as a great white shark. Any of those characters in the water, just about every single one of them gets dusted by Bruce. Outside of maybe Eva. Outside of Eva. Nobody else has the ability to. Maybe Mater has one. He has like a submarine thing going on. Maybe he could do that. I don't know. But everybody else is pretty much done. I mean, the Woodcarver would find a way. She'd probably just turn one of those fish into like her personal taxis or something. But everybody else, toast. All right.
Let's see. We got favorite moments so far. Any favorite moments in the movie? I
think the up montage at this point is their creme de la creme. It's the best thing that they've done to this point. That was one of those things where like culturally, everywhere you went for about a year, people talked to you about, have you seen Up? Bro, but have
Yeah.
you seen it? The
Have you?
beginning though, and it was
Have you
people who you would
watched?
never expect to be animation junkies were just
Hmm.
completely moved by it, and
Yeah.
it brought people to the movie theaters just to go see it. Um, I think it did a good job of also bringing a demographic to the movie theater that you don't normally see it out is the senior citizens. It played more to them as well because it's always going
Hmm.
to play to kids and parents, but I think grandparents got their movie in that one, and that was really cool.
Hmm.
Um, I think that my other favorite moments are just the environments that he created. We talked about them, creating these worlds with Monsters Inc. But
Hmm.
I think that tackling underwater, hitting the desert like they did in Cars, underwater and
Hmm.
Finding Nemo, or like just the Irish and Scottish plains and Brave, the forest and all that, watching horses move in that. Like there's so many things they've animated that if you're a student of animation at all, it took a long time for them to be able
Hmm.
to animate certain things. Like when they did Lion King, they brought lions in so they could watch how lions moved. But they'd been animating for 60 years at that point. So it's not as though these things are easy to do. And so for them to knock out fish moving the way that fish move, for them to knock out, you know, just the way that horse is moving Brave, or the way the bear moves in Brave, or all these
Hmm.
things, and make it look not just realistic, but believable. I'm,
Hmm.
I'm in. I believe you. That's a feat that very few others have been able to do to the quality of which Pixar has done. I think my favorite story so far, it's a it's a toss up between Wally, Up, and Monsters. I
Hmm.
think that I think Wally and Up have two of the best montages of the Pixar
Hmm.
series thus far. But Monsters, from start to finish, is probably the best story that they've told thus far
Yeah.
because the entire time is just phenomenal.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm continuing my trend of being very bad at picking favorites in this. Um, I really like the Toy Story trilogy, as you
Mm-hmm.
probably can guess.
Yeah,
Um, I would say of these, like, I think I'll stand by my like Toy Story 2 is the most like rewatchable of them. I remember seeing it in theaters and just being really excited about it. Um, and the I don't think I fully understood the when she loved me montage and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, it's a sad moment. And then I think like the older I get, I'm like, oh man, that's a really good and potent, well written, well paced scene that they almost didn't, you know,
name
have.
a sadder moment or more
Yeah.
heartfelt moment in Pixar before that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's it's pretty crazy.
I don't think there is, right? That's the first time they went to that place, isn't it?
I would say so. Yeah. Uh, with A Bug's Life and Toy Story in front of them, those are probably the main ones.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah,
no other. There's the whole "I don't want you anymore" in Toy Story. That's really
yeah.
scary. But
Hmm.
the when she loved me, that's the first time you're crying in Pixar.
Hmm. The hold on. Oop, there we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm tapping something on the screen. That was like gave me a warning. Um, yeah, I just Ratatouille. I really like watching. I know that
That's
is
true. Buzz Can't Fly song. She's right. That's
yep.
the that was
That's
part.
pretty.
That's the first sad part.
Yeah. It's a
But
pretty tragic
no,
like.
it can't be true.
Dun, dun,
I
dun,
could
dun.
fly if I wanted to,
Bring the horns.
like a bird in the sky.
Sitting there, I'm
Flying
playing
so
this like
high.
a Baptist sermon. Do, 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 do.
Okay, so go ahead.
Um, I don't know. I really like Ratatouille. I really like what it has to say about like creativity and that
Your
kind of
last
like
name is
that's the
Bongiorno. You
message
could
I pull
literally
from
be
it.
a character.
Yeah.
You could literally be a character in Ratatouille. I'm just saying. Yeah, I can see it. Put a chef
I
hat on.
think too though it like they're the villain isn't really a villain. The villain turns. There's that whole dynamic of it. Um, what this comes from, and you know, and it's like that kind of just the way it tackles it. I think is neat. But I think it's neat a neat portrait as to like why people do things, what brings them back to what they originally did. Like, you can probably extrapolate that from Ratatouille, where it's like, Ego loved food because of his mother, and that's why he started reviewing food, and that's why so I think that's kind of neat, just figuring out origins and that kind of stuff. And I'm pulling way too much out of this hat that is
I
the
don't think
movie,
so. I was
but
gonna say, do you think we ever get over the relationship of our parents? Because it seems like no is the obvious answer because they do such a great job of continually, like I say, they do a great job of telling stories, but almost every story has to do with your mom or your dad. They don't tell
yeah,
love
I
stories the same way, you know?
yeah, I think to dabble on that, I think it's like I think it's interesting when you realize the older you get, a lot of your stories are their stories. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of the things that the way that you relate to the world is not exactly how they relate to the world, but it is influenced by how they related to the world. And it just, not that people exist in cycles or that like there is a cycle to continue, but you see similar things, but you try to, I'm not like day-to-day stuff, I'm not like sitting there going like, this is what my dad did, I'm going to actively divert from that. But you're sitting there going like, you'll look back on things and go like, oh, there's this thing, like I like traveling, and like my dad was not someone who enjoyed traveling, but he did do long road trips. So I think there's like this, there's a relation to that. My grandmother traveled a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
sent a lot of postcards my way, and I always wanted to go to these places, and like I still want to go on an Alaskan cruise. I think that would be really neat. We have a comment from
Iggy Pop.
Iggy Pop. I was like looking, I was like, because sometimes they always throw something in there. When she let me hit so hard as an adult, I'm not lying, on a walk during lockdown last year, I found a Jessie doll and a pile of baby things on the side of the road. It absolutely wrecked me. Yeah, that, and at that, any
When
movie,
she loved me.
I think any movie that gets you to either change a behavior or change a thought, like to me, like Toy Story did that to me. Like, yeah, like you would watch movies where toys would come alive, but it wasn't okay. But like Toy Story, at least for my generation, at least for me personally, was the one that made me really go, is that possible? That'd be really neat if it was. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
you'd be watching like animated ones, like hand drawn animated, traditionally animation ones,
Yeah,
and you're like, yeah, I guess. Like anything
Sage
can
and
happen
Toyland
in
and
that.
stuff.
Yeah. But then for some reason, like this one, I was like, oh, like, huh. And it like changed your way of thinking of that. And I think if a movie has like even the tiniest like crumb of a influence on how you act, I think that's a interesting success.
Yeah.
It's really tough to
Any
to
influence that a
measure.
movie can have on you in your actual life, they did something right.
Mhm.
Or really wrong. It could be really wrong too. They could have done something.
Someone could just have turned full on into Sid and became no.
Oh wow.
Um, no, I mean that's a maker cosplayer kind of thing, building stuff, taking things apart, or they could become a surgeon. Maybe that inspired someone to get their medical school.
What movie are you looking forward to the most?
Ooh, let me look at that upcoming list of movies. Um, Clickety clack, typing on my loud keyboard. Um, man, Monsters University and the Inside Out's going to be very interesting. Um, Coco is going to be. I think that's going to be a long episode. I'm calling that now.
Coco is gonna make me cry.
Yeah, Toy Story 4 will be fun to talk about. I think that'll be kind of a fun full circle. Uh, Soul. I need to watch that one again. And I think kind of talking about Soul after watching Inside Out and noticing
Similarities
the
and differences.
similarity of themes of Pete Docter is the more abstract and unknowable, but creating these concepts it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then for like fun ones, I think Monsters University is going to be fun to talk about. Um, And then, like we're getting to these movies where we haven't had as many years to watch them over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So I think our analysis of these are going to be really interesting because, like, I can sit there and say, like, I've watched Monsters University a couple times. I certainly have not watched Monsters University as much as I've watched Monsters Inc. And that's the difference between 20
Well,
years and then
we're
this one
also
only.
really much we're in sequel territory now. You know, they've done the whole sequels to our favorites in Toy Story. And I guess Cars too, but I don't know how that's crazy. Cars got a sequel so quick. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
but we've done our Toy Story sequels already, you know. But now we're gonna see all the other sequels of everything between
Yeah.
Toy Story 3. We're gonna see the Monsters University. The what else do we see? Incredibles 2. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the sequels that we wanted to see, we're gonna see now. So I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
for that. Finding Dory, and Pixar does a good job of sequels, man. That's a trip.
Yeah. Comments. We've got someone took her home, so that's good. The Jessie that was on the side of the road got taken home, which is good. And then Sadness or Terry and Jerry from Soul could probably take out the wood carver. Yes, I would say like abs. Yeah, Terry probably could.
Well,
Terry
okay, so we haven't gotten to them yet. Terry and Jerry are very much so in this whole thing, but we don't know. We haven't gotten there. But
but we'll get there.
here's your little where my brain's at with it. Who created Terry and Jerry? Is the wood carver? Where's the wood carver in that? We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna be looking for Easter eggs and different clues to get us to the answer to that. In other words, is she really omnipotent and omniscient, or is she just seem as such because she's the Wizard of Oz in our story?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, this will be interesting.
The movie I'm most excited for is definitely probably going to be Coco, just because it's my favorite Pixar movie. But it just makes me so sad. It's so catastrophically sad. But then I'm also really looking forward to Key and Peele in Toy Story 4. They are hilarious. I can't wait for it.
I think
we
if
don't
there's a
know
character dynamic this show has, it's
is
Ducky and Bunny.
Carver God, creator of all things? We don't know. We don't know. In the Pixar theory, she really could be.
I mean, he was a carpenter.
She seems to move through time without, like, I don't know. Who's putting the Peace Plan truck everywhere? I think it's her.
It could be like how like Mayan sculptures have like the crazy. we're gonna joke about conspiracy theories, like those rocket sculptures the Mayans had. I think. Let's see.
She said, "Wait, I need to Google
the wood carver." I mean,
get
she's
your
a witch,
foil
but...
caps on, everybody. I got
Here we
some
go,
new
everybody.
caps for you.
But I know, like, does wood carving turn you into the creator of your own world? I suppose it does.
If Jesus was a carpenter.
Pull back.
Wait a minute, hold on, I'm on to something. If Jesus was a carpenter, does that mean? Because I mean, Mary wasn't a carpenter. Yes, that one. The Merida.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. You're picking it up now, Iggy Pop. She's got unlimited powers. Unlimited.
Apparently goes to witch festivals, which would be interesting.
So, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Jerry and they're going to be on the list. They will be. But that's a ways. That's still 12 movies away. So you know what? Maybe that'll go to the top of the list. I am most excited for Soul, just so that we can see who is going to be on the top of our list. Because I don't think Luke has got any characters to pull, the top to flip the list. But Soul does.
Yeah.
Soul definitely does. All right. So those are the movies we're looking forward to most. We've covered our recap. We've covered our power scaling. We've done a pretty good job. We're getting close to our wrap up here. I do want to give a nice little shout out to the real all-star of Pixar, and that's going to be John Ratzenberger. If you're not sure who John Ratzenberger is, I just want to go through real quick and give you a nice little list of all the different things that he has done. Give me 1 second here. Poop up beep. And here we go. John Ratzenberger. He started off as Ham in Toy Story, in Toy Story 2, in Toy Story 3. He will be in Toy Story 4. This is the beginning of something great here. Something that we really loved about the Toy Story franchise is that they were able to take adult themes and just package them for children, but really keep them for adults. And Ratzenberger really embodied that. We got Gordon the guard over in Brave, construction foreman Tom and Up, John in Wally, he's like the main person outside of the captain, Mustafa, the main server in Ratatouille, Mac, the Big Mac truck. And then we got the Underminer, who really, for having a 10-second cameo, does a great job in Incredibles. Fish School and the Husband Crab. So most of the Fish School and Finding Nemo, what it does with the faces. The Abominable Snowman and Monsters, Inc. And last but not least, who could forget P.T. Fly. John Ratzenberger, we salute you.
Real men of
Don't get me started on that again.
Right? I have the real men of genius, the real students of genius. We are reminiscing about something we did in high school where we did our school news program and we did a sequence that was it was lampooning other students, and it was, instead of real men of genius, it was real students of genius. We did run to every class freshman. We salute you, real students of genius. It was run to every class freshman. I think it was like overzealous, like sports fan. And then we did another one, and then we had one in the drafts. I still think it was the best one.
Which one?
The suburban emo kid. So great. Your brand new car.
I wish Blink-182 would come back.
Your new car didn't come in sadness black. Woe is you. It's somewhere. I have it.
Oh man. It's
so
hard to look emo when you're eating volcano burger fries.
You know, I don't think I've ever had volcano burger, which is weird. I never went. I just never went over there.
You've never been to Volcano Burger?
I think I went there, and I don't think I ever ate a burger.
That's
I ate
weird.
fries.
Dude, you're weird,
I like
man.
Paul's.
Guys,
if
you're listening, Volcano Burger
burgers.
is a restaurant. It's a burger joint. It's literally across the street. Like, you hit the button from our high school, and you're at Volcano Burger. Like, you go across the street, you're in line, okay? And we had an open campus, and we all go to Volcano Burger, like, just about every day. There's a bunch of it on campus all the time. And anyways, Marco also lives in that same city. He's lived there his entire life. And for some reason, he hasn't gone to the most popular burger joint in the city. That's crazy. That's crazy. Next year, tell me you haven't had a pasty.
No, I've had a pasty.
All right, cool.
Jake and I went there one time.
One time?
Well, I went there one time. Jake.
I'm upset.
We're supposed to be getting like a support local business thing soon. I'll be able to, I'll be able to support them. Don't you worry. So, scheduling wise, we are going to figure out when we'll do this. When can we do this again? Dun, 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 dun. So, my days off are usually Fridays. Sean's, yours are.
I got them all over the place. I have no idea when they're going to be. But I'm normally free in the morning, so I could probably do 11 a.m. So I think Fridays are a good day for us.
Okay. I think that's what we're going to aim for. Stay tuned.
Fridays, hopefully Mondays for the Spotify. It'll always be up by.
Yeah, and then I would say that this is also the conclusion of season 2, episode 1. We're going to continue. We're going to call this season 2, the second half.
I can dig it. The next chapter.
Chapter 2. And then there's a couple other ideas got for like different podcasts that we can do under this banner. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to check us out at pizzaplanettruck.com or on Instagram, which you're probably watching us on right now, at Pizza Planet Truck. Easy to remember. We've got a couple of shops. We've got some merch. Our next upcoming events are probably going to be, I think, Pasadena Comic-Con in January, ? That may change. We might do some local events before the year is up, but I think when it comes to big events, we are finished for 2021. But thanks for tuning in.
Feel free to ask us any questions in the inbox. If you want to see us talk anything you want us to talk about. Next movie we'll be doing is going to be Monsters Universidad. Yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure. I'm excited to be back. Marco, it's great chatting with you. I got nothing for you guys. Have a good one.
See ya.
Peace.